What if the things we call normal, the food we eat, the jokes we laugh at, the way we dress, even what we think is successful, are all part of a hidden system shaping how we see the world? That is the kind of question cultural studies asks. And once you start noticing it, you see it everywhere. Today, I want to give you 5 fascinating angles on cultural studies, not as a dry academic subject, but as a powerful lens for understanding meaning, power, and identity in everyday life. When most people hear culture, they think of music, movies, or traditions. But cultural studies looks much wider than that. It asks, how do people create meaning in everyday life? A logo, a meme, a hairstyle, a sport, a classroom rule, all of these carry meaning. For example, a suit might mean professionalism in one context, but in another it might signal formality, class, or even conformity. The same object can mean different things depending on who is looking at it. Why this matters? Once you understand that meaning is constructed, you stop assuming your own interpretation is the only one. That is useful in communication, marketing, media, and even relationships. Cultural studies is also about power, not just political power, but the power to define what seems normal, cool, or true. Think about advertising. It does not just sell products. It often sells an idea of success, beauty, or belonging. Over time, those images can shape what people desire and how they judge themselves. A concrete example: if every movie hero looks and speaks a certain way, audiences can start absorbing the message that this is what leadership looks like. The useful part here is that cultural studies helps you spot influence that does not feel like force. It reveals how power works through repetition, symbols, and expectations. Another big idea: identity is not just something you have. It is something that gets formed through culture. Your nationality, gender, class, religion, accent, and even your online identity are shaped by the environments you move through. For example, someone may act very differently at home, at work, and online, not because they are fake, but because identity is flexible and context-dependent. This is useful because it helps explain why people can feel between categories, or why certain spaces make people feel more seen than others. It also gives you language to understand yourself and other people with more nuance. Cultural studies pays close attention to media because media shapes what people notice, believe, and normalize. If a story keeps showing one group as powerful and another as foolish, that pattern matters. Not because one image changes everything overnight, but because repeated images build cultural common sense. A practical example: if you are trying to understand public opinion on any issue, do not just look at facts. Look at the stories, images, and headlines surrounding those facts. This is valuable for anyone in content creation, journalism, education, or social media. It teaches you to ask, who is being represented, how, and why? At its best, cultural studies is not just theory, it is a way of thinking. It teaches you to read the world like a text. That means asking questions like, who benefits from this image? What assumptions are being treated as normal? Whose voice is missing? What does this say about identity or belonging? And that makes it practical. Whether you are analyzing a campaign, a film, a workplace culture, or a viral trend, cultural studies gives you a framework for seeing beneath the surface. So the real power of cultural studies is this: it shows that meaning is made, power is often hidden, and identity is always in motion. And once you can see that, you do not just understand culture better, you understand people, systems, and even yourself in a much deeper way. 5 fascinating angles on cultural studies. Meaning, power, and identity is just one small part of cultural studies. If you are interested, our full free cultural studies course is linked in the description.